I'm Elizabeth, and as you can see, still on holiday, here with another weekly reading update, even though it's Wednesday and midweek. Should have done this earlier, but because I'm on holiday I'm sort of losing track of time, and that's a good sign because it means I'm properly relaxing, and I needed that. So this week I have done a bit less reading than last week, simply because I've had company. On Wednesday my friend Monica arrived from Norway to London and I spent time with her, and on Thursday evening Celia arrived by train from Paris and stayed with me here until Monday, and yeah, we've spent time together, all three of us. And then on Friday we all three went on a bookshop crawl with Mark Nash, which was also great. And as you can probably imagine, I have bought a lot of books this past week. I'm not gonna end this video with a haul like I did last week because it will be too long. I'm just gonna make, I'm gonna save all of that and make one giant haul when I get home. But I thought I would just update you on what I have been reading this week before they arrived, and also a bit with them. On Monday I finished Landlocked by Doris, which I talked about last week. I really love this book, and it's now my second favourite Doris Lessing novel after The Golden Notebook. I'm not going to talk more about this now. If you want to know what I thought about it, you can see that in last week's video, and I'm predicting it will show up in a future video as well. Then I read Kudos by Rachel Cusk. I was very much expecting to love this because I have loved the previous two books in the series, Outline and Transit, but sadly I was wrong. I can't really see why, or maybe I can. This follows the same pattern as the other two, in that the book is just a series of conversation the main character is having, but in the previous two books she has been talking to a lot of very different people with a lot of very different experiences of life, and they've all been sort of analysing their lives, and I really enjoyed reading those analyses. In this one she is at various literary events, and all of the people she's talking to are either authors or publishers or journalists, and they're all talking about literature, about books, about reading. And although that is, or are, topics that interests me, this just got too much and too repetitive. And I mean, there were parts in here I enjoyed, there were some ideas and thoughts about literature that resonated with me, that I underlined and enjoyed, but overall this book was just too repetitive, and I can't see how it added anything to the experience of having read the first two books. So this, I'm afraid, was a bit of a disappointment for me. And then I went on from that to read Motherhood by Sheila Heti. This is a book I've been curious about ever since I heard about it last year, but I've been waiting for the paperback, and then I was waiting for this trip to happen because I wasn't allowing myself to buy any books before going here because I knew what would happen when I went here. But yeah, this is a book about motherhood. It's about a character discussing with herself whether or not to have a child. She is sort of veering to not wanting to have a child, but she feels that for one thing that's not what society expects of her, and for the other thing she is afraid she's going to regret it when she has left it too long without having one, and her body won't comply with her becoming pregnant anymore. So I was interested in reading this because I've read some excerpts and quotes, seeing how she's discussing motherhood from the viewpoint of someone not actually wanting to become a mother, and that's something that I've rarely seen discussed in books. I mean, when I read about motherhood, it's either about this fantastic experience of being a mother, or it's about problematic relationships people have with their mothers. But rarely do I see someone discuss the ideas and arguments for not becoming a mother at all, which, you know, is the choice that I myself have taken. So I was very curious about this, and I would say I'm a bit conflicted about this book. I really loved the beginning of it. I was really into it. It also has this sort of weird part where she is asking questions and flipping a coin to get answers, and I thought that was amusing, and it did add something to the book. But then after like 100 pages of umming and ahhing about whether or not to have a child, I just grew tired of it, and I think the book was just too long, because there was no progress. It was just the same arguments over and over again, and I got really tired of it. And then I got really scared that it would end with her becoming pregnant and having a child, because that was the last thing I wanted for the book. I'm not going to say whether that happened or not in case you want to read it, but overall I just thought it was too long. I really enjoyed it in the beginning, and then again it got too repetitive, the same thing over and over again, and then it was like turning a switch in the end, where she had sort of come to a conclusion, and I felt it was all and then she was so certain about her choice in the last few pages. It didn't really add up for me. So this is another one that was overall sort of disappointing, even though I did get a lot from especially the first part of this book. And after that I went on to start another new book I've bought here, which was Feebleminded by Ariana Harwicz. I wanted to read this, well, I have seen lots of people talk about it, but specifically it was Michael from Knowledge Lost who talked about this that made me want to read it, and I picked it up, and sadly I'm like 36 pages into it, which is almost halfway through, because this is a very short book, and I don't understand anything of this. I mean, to me it feels like a collection of sentences that are not properly tied together, and I just can't make heads or tails of it. I think this is the kind of book I would make more sense of if I read it in Norwegian, because sometimes if the language gets too experimental, I do get somewhat lost with reading in English. I don't know if that's the case here. I'm gonna try to finish the book. I mean, it is so short that I'm gonna see if it makes more sense to me when I get more into it. But as of now, I'm just very confused by this one. I have no idea what's going on. And then the last book that I started yesterday is After Atlas by Emma Newman, which is the follow-up to Planetfall that I read earlier on in this trip. This is a sequel, but you can read them in any order, because the first book, Planetfall, is about a group of people who have left Earth and made a colony elsewhere in the universe, and this book is set on Earth 40 years after they left. So, you know, it's the same universe, but it's very, very different storylines, and they're not really connected to each other apart from being set in the same sort of reality. In this one we follow a character, a man who is an investigator, and he has gotten himself into a very high profile murder case. So this very much reads like a detective story, a crime fiction, which is something I don't normally read, but I'm able to give it a chance when it's happening in some weird kind of future, I think. So far I'm enjoying it. I'm about 90 pages in so far, and this is going to be my book to bring with me in my bag on my travels today. So I'll probably get about as much reading done today as I did yesterday, so I'm probably going to finish this before going home on Friday. And yeah, that's what I've been reading this week. I still have plenty of books with me here, so I have a lot of reading I can do before going home. I basically have 2 whole days now. I have today, which is Wednesday, and then I have all of Thursday. And then I'm leaving on Friday evening, so that will be the end of my 17 days in London, which have just flown by. So next time you'll see me, I'll probably be back in my own flat with, you know, all the plants behind me instead of this blank white wall. And I hope you're all having a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.